When it's MMA go time, it's MMA lockup showtime.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified. I kept thinking I could never live without you by my
Welcome
side.
back, everybody. This is MMA Lockup. I'm your host, Jeremy Hurtt. Make sure you check out the website. That's MMALockup.com. Also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at MMA Lockup. Right now on the phone we have Arvin Brad Stanley from Fight For Life MMA. How you doing today, Arvin Brad?
Hey, Jeremy, I'm all right, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's pretty chilly outside right now.
Oh, it is, man. I had to go out and pull my dog off. I was in the cold. I was in my 90s, man. It's a day off for me, vacation, and my dog was going at it with another dog. And so, yeah, I got a pretty chilly wake-up call this morning.
I know how that works. That's how it works, isn't it? You get a day off from work, it's got to be 30 degrees outside, and your dog's fighting with someone else.
Man, I'm telling you, it's only end around here. Shoot off, man. Take me on down through there. Mixed martial arts.
Yes, sir. Mixed martial arts. We have a pretty wide range of guests here on MMA Lockup, and was really intrigued by your story. Got to go over it with you a little bit about a week ago, and was really intrigued by what you're bringing to the sport. Before we get into all that, though, we kind of like to go over the backstory because, everyone is really just an accumulation of the perspectives and experiences they've gained throughout their life, and you've certainly lived an interesting one yourself, which I think brings us to present day and what you're wanting to do today with mixed martial arts. So really, let's start from the beginning. If you wouldn't mind, let's go through your story. What made Arvin Brad Stanley who he is today and has brought him to the point where he's doing what he wants to do today. So just sort of start from the beginning. I know you told me you came into it with a rough life and you kind of joined the Army. Where did it all start from?
I come into this society pretty much statistic. Broken homes and name it, been there, done it, running the streets and just, really had no guidance, when I was younger, didn't work out in my favor for the first few years. Teenage years were, in and out of, foster homes and, detention centers and, just wherever they could find me a bed at. I tried to get out of it, man. I signed up for the Army and then, went 11 Bravo,
Infantryman.
But yeah, I was, airborne actually, and
Huh?
well, I don't think I was ready psychologically for what the military was going to do for me. I kind of went into it with a bitter chip on my shoulder, from childhood. Well, so when I come out, it was most soldiers, come out, in a lot different manner than I did. I come out more of an outlawish, not really knowing any boundaries. It didn't take long, man. You hear a lot of stories of guys ending up in prison after the Army, and I did. I was there. I found myself sitting in a maximum security unit. Rough, man. Can't nobody describe a prison, unless you've been there and you've actually went through from the day you step into the gate to the day you leave. A lot of things in prison really, really set me on the path that I am today, with Fighting For Life MMA. A lot of experiences in there. I'm not going to pretend like when I got there I didn't still have the same outlawish rogue ways that I had. I still wanted to be top dog, rebel in every way that I could, basically. So when I got there, man, I found myself in a whole different society inside those prison walls. A lot of violence, a lot of things that are kept in the corner. You really don't see on the news channel. A lot of things that go on in there. It's pretty bad environment, man.
Right.
Just pretty much. It all depends on the security, and we're talking back, in the middle 90s when they had gang banging in Little Rock going on, and a lot of gang activity here in Arkansas. So they filled the prisons up with a lot of violent individuals. So it was definitely an experience, man. One thing that that helped bring me out was fighting. There was an underground fight circuit in there. Several times, man, I found myself on one end of an axe kick, with my head bouncing off concrete floor. Of course, different rules, man, completely than any type of organized sport.
And how does that work in a controlled environment like prison, where so much of your day is structured and so much is overseen? Like how do you have a fight club in a controlled environment like that?
Well, the media has got everyone to believe that it's a controlled environment inside those prisons. Actually, it's gotten a lot more controlled since that period of time. Back then, you were talking about understaffing. You were talking about staffing individuals from low income through the Arkansas Department of Corrections hiring policy. Putting people in the position of a security guard who is from the same hood and the same area as these other gangbangers. So you have a tendency of a lot of at that point in time, a lot of guards that were look the other way type of guards.
Right.
So that gave that gave the prison inmate body, a lot of control, and a lot of the guards feared for their lives because they were so understaffed half the time. You're talking 15 guards over 1,200 inmates. So
not great numbers.
Oh, right. So, sort of a live and let live at that point in time in the Arkansas Department of Corrections. Y'all do y'all's thing, don't nobody die, so we ain't got to do no paperwork, and we'll do our thing. And so, that gave a little leeway for, little corners of this penitentiary, or a boiler room in this penitentiary, or, a laundry room in this prison to serve as fight grounds at one given point in time, during the shift, whenever, they wasn't populated or whatever. So, I took off into that. Of course, I wasn't nothing but a brawler. I hadn't studied much of anything. I was a big boxing fan, Mike Tyson, he was sort of my hero coming up, that guy came from the streets, and climbed the ranks. So I had a chance while I was in there to meet a very, very, very unique individual, man. I couldn't believe it once I'd done a little investigation on the guy. Green Beret, he was a professor at a college here in Arkansas. He was a high school teacher for many years. He was just, his comprehension skills were very, very, very unique, man. To the point that here he is, an American, writing an Arabic book on how to speak English. So I'm sitting here watching this guy do this in the cell block, and I'm just awed by it, And, what got my attention is we went into the gym one day, and this you gotta imagine this older guy, about 5'7.5", 8", about 220 pounds, overweight, pot belly, 56, 57 years old, back here doing just some nasty spin kicks, man. That just looked unbelievable from this little dude. And so I ended up approaching the guy, he was very offset. He was very distant. He didn't like any social activities whatsoever. I eventually got in with the guy and learned that he was studying where he had actually studied Shotokan karate, and that set me off on the path of martial arts. That there was probably the moment in time that I was introduced and started watching UFC. I wanted to see who the competition was, and what I was facing. It was at that point in time I think I found my calling in life was to fight. I didn't know what I was fighting for at that point in time, which I guess every fighter out here is fighting for pride and be able to say I'm the best. I wasn't different.
Meeting someone that he kind of gave you direction as far as that fighting instinct that you already had. It gave you direction and sort of bled through into other parts of your life. Kind of gave you a grounding and a direction.
Oh, right on, man. Martial arts is the thing that turned me around. Studying the cadres of Shotokan, I started finding pattern, and I was able to start following pattern instead of following chaos, chaotic thought processes. It gave me that little bit that I needed in order to focus on what could possibly be, if I actually applied myself to something that I could do. And kind of something strange about all this is, man, I don't like to fight. It was just something I was good at. It was something that I made cookies and cakes with. With that said, Shotokan just took it to a whole new level. I was eventually released from prison. An entirely different individual, matured. A little boy went in, a man came out. I dissected probably 3 prison libraries. I pulled on, and I give props to Little Rock Library for their program of supplying prisoners with literature on request. It allowed me to, just expand my comprehension skills and my intellect, took it to a whole new level, so I came out, I can't really describe, the level of individual that I was when I went in and the level of man that I was that came out. With that said, man, I got out and, I'll face the same things that all prisoners face, whether they're, a different individual or worse than they were, financial, trying to find housing, getting on my feet, job, of course on amateur level of MMA, it's really hard to fight MMA competitively and still provide for yourself.
Right.
If you're having to pay gym memberships and you're having to pay this guy and pay that guy and pay rent and cover your food, it takes its toll. It's a roadblock for someone that has already had sort of a wishy-washy go at life. But I still managed. I found time. I trained with a couple of decent jiu-jitsu guys here in North Central Arkansas. Joe Batterton gave me the basics, and I went from there. Found myself Branson or Springfield, Missouri, one of the two. Fought for small amateur. They covered Missouri. Had guys coming from Oklahoma and Kansas City and Arkansas. So can't say it was really that small. 500, 600, 700 at a show. I found myself in there competing, man, and it was just it happened so fast. I really didn't have a chance to take it all in. 2 years later, man, I've got the light heavyweight and the middleweight title for that promotion strapped over my shoulder, and I'm enjoying the 4-star hotels, and life's good, and just man, one day I decided to walk away. I just got to a point where I said, man, I'm tired of fighting, man, And,
just it wasn't providing that same fulfillment anymore. Or?
Well, no, I just the what it takes to get ready for a fight.
Right. So it's not about what it wasn't providing; it's about what it was taking.
That's right, man. It was taking so much for me, and the yearning of a man to have a wife and a family and all that. It was just taking too much for me to be able to establish some type of family and quality time and all that. Just laid them on the table, man, and said, I think I've had enough.
You're listening to MMA Lockup. On the phone, we got Arvin Brad Stanley. So you were born to a rough life. You joined the Army. Instead of providing direction, it kind of just sort of fanned the flames of the things that you were already dealing with. You got out. You spent some time in prison. In there, you were involved in the fight clubs. You met a older gentleman who helped kind of teach you and kind of give you a little discipline, a little bit of guidance in your life. You get out. You win a couple of MMA titles. You're working on decent-sized promotions here in the regional area, and you decide it's just taking too much. So at that point, you're looking for something new in life. What were you able to find? What made that difference? What caused the change in your life that sort of got you to that next point?
Well, I signed on here with Ranger Boats, a famous bass boat company. Mm-hmm. And there was an opportunity there around that point in time. They were opening up a new plant and starting a new design of boats. And I'm a master welder. I've been welding for 18 years, man. Everywhere I go, I've welded. I'm using welding to back up on. So I had the opportunity to take off on that venture there. The basic day-to-day 9-to-5 job, and trying to scrape by. There wasn't really one thing that I was directed towards at that point in time, other than just telling myself, hey, dude, you're middle 30s. You've spent a lot of time slipping and sliding through life, man. It's about time you take some roots, man, and settle down and figure out what home's about, Mm-hmm. And that's basically the frame of mind that I had at that point in time. It didn't work out the way I thought. That yearning for combat, competition, it just, it was still a flame in my heart. I would still go to shows. I would still, carry on conversations with promoters. And I didn't just walk away completely. I had acquaintances all throughout Missouri and Arkansas. Oklahoma. I'll tell you what basically got me to Fighting For Life MMA was a previous relationship before my wife and my kids. A young lady, she had a 3-year-old son, and some weird rash, man. I can't remember exactly all of it. I do know that they rushed us off to Children's Hospital, and they asked us how fast we could get there. Of course, it's like 3 hours from where we're at to Children's in Little Rock, and they assured us that if we left immediately, that we could go, just take him down ourselves. Of course, we were all about it, so we took off. And we get down there, and we find out, man, that the little guy's got Kawasaki disease, which is it's a neurological disease for infants, and it has like a 10-day incubation period. And if they don't get this drip in them within the 10th day, it causes severe neurological issues. And well, of course, we were blessed. We discovered it on the 8th day, and we were down to Children's before the 8th day was up. So they got this drip on the guy, and they wanted to keep him for a week or so for observation. And so there we are, man, and I'm sleeping on cots and roaming hallways, and I remember going for to find a vending machine, and when I come back through, I thought I was in the right hallway. I walked down this wing, and man, I didn't really. I think I was just watching the floor, just walking along, and I looked up, man, and I saw just something that just blew me away as a man. Spent all these years trying to play tough and act hardcore and everything, but I looked up and I seen all these kids in this wing of this hospital, and it just from them having bald heads and everything, it just you just automatically knew what it was. And but what was crazy, Jeremy, was man, most of these kids were carrying on like they didn't have a care in the world, dude, and they were playing with their toys and their video games and laughing and giggling but when you look in the parents' eyes, man, it's like you could just knew, and I kind of walked out of that wing with a little different perspective on life altogether. And from that point on, I kept seeing those kids, and them fighting for their lives, off in the dark corner of the hospital in a room nobody sees.
Yeah.
And it just kept pestering me, Jeremy. Man, what can you do? I mean, you got all these teams of doctors and nurses and all this, funding, millions of dollars for what they're dumping into these kids. I mean, what could you do, to help? It just wouldn't come to me, man. There wasn't nothing that I felt like that I could do to offer any assistance or give them any more hope, Man, tell you what, this was right before I laid the ECW titles on the table and decided to walk away. I had one light heavyweight title defense left. I think it was in the locker room right at that fight, and I was I couldn't get them kids out of my mind, man. It just come to me, man. Why don't you fight for them? Why don't you quit fighting for gold and diamonds and oohs and ahs and who's got the bigger kahunas and looking like a bunch of pit bulls out here in a damn cage? Why don't y'all fight for them? Fight for them. And from that moment on, the idea for Fighting For Life MMA just grew.
The idea from Fighting For Life, it came from this idea of the fulfillment that you were looking for in the fight game that maybe you weren't finding. You'd found direction in it, you'd found guidance in it, but you'd found a center and anchor in it, but you weren't finding that fulfillment. And at the same time, you see these kids who are desperately in need of something, and you're saying, what can I do on my level? And so the idea came to you that there's some way to create that gap from the fulfillment that you were looking for in your own life and the need that these kids have in theirs, and you kind of bridge that gap. Is that correct?
Oh, man, that's kind of close, Jeremy. You kind of hit it there on the head, man. Since we started talking about Fighting For Life, Don McGuire and I, UFC photographer Don McGuire, who I happened to have the honor of meeting at one of the amateur events while I was fighting him. Man, the guy, I didn't know what he had been through, and I didn't know that he had lost his leg to cancer and all that. And my mission for Fighting For Life MMA just hit, kind of hit him in the heart. It's always been his thing is to rock the kids, and much respect to him for what he's done to bring recognition to what these little ones are going through, man. But it's been really Don's been my he's been my wall that I bounce ideas off of for Fighting For Life MMA, And man, we just got something for the fans, man. You're not going to believe it. The production is going to be awesome. The fighters are going to be just amazed at the emotions behind this event.
Kind of explain to our listeners, because I'm sure they don't know, and I understand you have some proprietary concerns. There's certain things that you need to kind of keep, they're what you're doing, they're part of the process. But kind of explain to our listeners exactly what the general idea of Fighting for Life is, what the general goal is, what achievements it seeks to facilitate.
Well, man, it's a Big Brother meets Ultimate Fighter production. It's a reality series. Fighters in house. We're adding the kids into the footage, man. These fighters are going to go into the hospitals, and they're going to find that one kid they connect with, man. And we're going to be there to record that relationship that blossoms the months up to the event, and we're going to capture in-house footage as well, of the social activities going on in camp. And then we're just going to wow the audience, man, with the relationships between these fighters and these kids that they represent. And if all goes well, hopefully every child will be able to attend the event. And I can't use enough words to explain how emotional the show is going to be. To see what these kids are doing, what these fighters are doing for these kids, and the outcome is a surprise for everyone. I can't let that one go, man.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, Arvin, Brad, I'm personally a fan of the UFC's Ultimate Fighter series, but one thing I do find as a weakness of the show is the way that, kind of the necessity whenever you're doing a production for television where you kind of have to create drama and kind of have to create sort of a soap opera dynamic to the whole thing. We see things out of context, and we see things pushed where it's kind of designed to build a narrative, whereas that might be a weakness with the series. What you're saying is, let's take that weakness and turn it into a strength by filling that gap in with something that helps other people, and specifically these children who are facing diseases that no adult should have to face, much less a child. So what I like, it kind of sounds like you're taking what in a lot of ways is a weakness of a really good idea and find a way to make it into a strength and help others.
That's right. We are going back to Shakespeare. We're going to take some of his philosophy. We're going to add tragedy in with the action. And by doing so, not only are the, of course, the kids are going to benefit from all the pay-per-view take-ins. Fighters are going to benefit too. Fighters are underpaid, man. We know. They were trying to wow the public about Weidman taking home this new Harley Davidson, and Mike Tyson would laugh at what Weidman took home.
Yeah.
For that fight. Just to make a point. MMA fighters are so much more. Man, the sport itself asks so much more from the MMA fighter than it asks from the boxer. I'm not trying to cut boxers down at all. I love the sport, and there's some good hands out there. I just feel that MMA fighters, them and their families, they put in a lot more towards the cage than boxers did. So I really think that the purses ought to show that. We're still going to, man. Sit back and watch. This thing is taking off, and I'm really excited about what's happened over the last couple of months. The direction that Don McGuire's added to us, and a lot of dimension added by Don.
You hit on something there, Arvin, Brad, that I've discovered in doing this job. But before I started with MMA Lockup, I worked in general sports talk radio, and I'm not going to denigrate anybody for any other sports, but I will say it's fairly night and day between the other sports and MMA as far as, I guess, the personalities, the humility, everything that goes along. MMA fighters are kind of a different breed, and you're right. They put a lot into it. There aren't a lot of sports where, when you're coming up, you sleep. In basketball, you don't sleep on the gym or sweep the court every day to earn your ability to train in basketball there. It's kind of a different way they come up. Tell our listeners who might be listening right now and saying, well, how can I get involved? How can I help? What can our listeners do to get involved in this, or if not looking to get involved, at least to help, lend a helping hand or become financially involved, or, what can they do to get involved in Fighting for Life?
Man, they can look on Facebook, Fighting for Life MMA. they can check us out. They can contact myself, Don McGuire, famous UFC combat sports photographer. He'll be glad to hit you back.
And Don's on Facebook. Don's a team member here at MMA Lockup. I assure you, if you get a hold of Don McGuire, nicest guy in the world, get a hold of him on Facebook. He will absolutely get back with you.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, Don's man. There's nothing like Don, man. There ain't a man out there. They can contact either him and I, and if they've got anything they can help us with, we're looking for sponsorship. We're looking for anyone that wants to put their name on large pay-per-view events. Man, you wouldn't believe the amount of fighters that have just poured in messages. Hey, man, anytime, any day, I'm there. And it's like, wow. But yeah, anybody that wants to put their name on this, want to talk, negotiate a little sponsorships, or just fans, for the fans. MMA, there's something new coming, and it's going to be big. Just watch your local listings. I'm so excited. I get the pacing when I talk about it, man. It's really going to happen. I really don't think we're going to look for any type of donations right now. I'll leave that up to Don. Like I said, I think just the sponsorships will take us there.
All right, folks. Well, if you're listening again, Arvin, Brad, Stanley, Fighting For Life MMA on MMA Lockup. Make sure you check out the website, MMALockup.com. Also, Facebook and Twitter at MMA Lockup. If you're wanting to get involved in this organization, like I said, if you've been listening, it sounds like a really good organization. Taking a weakness perhaps that you could perceive in the sport and trying to make it into a strength, and at the same time trying to help the less fortunate who are really looking for that help. If you want to get involved, if you want to find out what you can do to help, again, check out Fighting For Life MMA Facebook, Don McGuire on Facebook. Even go on MMA Lockup Facebook, and we'll be happy to find out what we can do. Arvin, Brad, it's been really nice having you on the show. I really appreciate it, brother, and best of luck in everything you're doing, man. I really appreciate it. I think it's important that people are looking not just at what can I get out of this, but what can we do to take this sport and the growth it's seeing and use it to really help the world around us. Right on, Jeremy. Hey, it's been a pleasure, man. Yes, sir. That's Arvin Brad Stanley, the founder. Is that correct term to use?
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Arvin Brad Stanley, the founder of Fighting For Life MMA. Again, check him out on Facebook. Check us out on Facebook. I'm Jeremy Hurtt. You're listening to MMA Lockup. More to come when we get back, folks. Don't go anywhere. Back after these messages.
Fighting